Good morning, everybody. It's Catherine Cooke, founder of The Engine and leading business advisor, and we're so excited this morning to talk about the art of proactivity for business success. This morning, I'm joined with Alannah Stewart, partner from Wayland. Good morning, Alannah.
Morning.
Corbett, creator of Peaceful Pipeline for service providers and consultants. Good morning, Kat.
Good morning, Catherine.
And Peter Cooke, business advisor and business owner at The Engine Limited. Good morning, Peter.
Hi, everyone.
And Kat, I just saw you on another podcast. You're proving to be quite famous, so we're quite lucky to have you on here today. It might be we might have to kind of like book a month in advance now to get you on one of these. But well done on you having to relive your moment in Muriwai again. It must have been pretty hard and just to go through it all. But you're such a trooper. Absolutely admire you. So well done.
Thanks,
on doing what you do. So this morning, we're here to talk about proactivity. It's not a one-time effort, but a mindset that should be cultivated and ingrained within the DNA of a successful business. In the fast-paced and competitive business world, success often hinges on the ability to be proactive. Proactivity is the art of taking initiative, being forward-thinking and actively seeking opportunities rather than simply reacting to circumstances. I certainly know what that's like, that's for sure. Quite necessary for more so in a recession. What's your take on this as an accountant, Alannah?
Look, absolutely. Planning ahead is key, right? You generally can, because you tend to get a little bit of warning about an impending recession. So you plan your cash flow, your debt collection, your taxes. Think about financing, think about staffing, think about systems, and potentially about diversification.
Wow, yes, all of the above. Cash is king, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Peter, what about you? Talk about using how do you talk to businesses, or how do you be proactive yourself in business?
Yeah, well, I guess if you look at the challenges and opportunities we get in business, they fall into a couple of areas. One is the circle of concern, and the other is what we call the circle of influence. So proactive people tend to focus their efforts and energy on their circle of influence. In other words, the things they can actually do something about. Whereas reactive people in business are just dealing with things out of their control. And that's the difference, I guess. And so the proactive business owner focuses on preparing themselves and planning and looking at what they can actually influence within the circle of influence that they have, and with access to the people that they need to help them in managing those challenges, whether it's a network, their staff, or their peer group. So basically, proactive means not waiting to find out that you need help until it's too late, but establishing the strong networks and support that you need well beforehand, and having a proactive plan in place.
Yeah, look, that's all good stuff. And look, when you talk about influence, and I always say to people, control what you can control. And the best thing that you can do is to surround yourself with experts, because when you've got other co-pilots there to help you, it makes it a lot easier. You've got people to bounce off. You're not alone. And it just feels like a load's being lifted. So we all know about that, about lifting loads. So Kat, coming to you, you lift a lot of loads for a lot of people out there. What does proactivity mean for you in the role that you do as being a peaceful pipeline for service providers and consultants like us?
So renowned management expert Peter Drucker, he explains, or he describes business as essentially having two functions, and that is innovation and marketing. So my interpretation of that is your innovation is solving a problem, and knowing what that problem is and how you solve it. And the second one is marketing. So that's telling the people that need that's the solution to that problem. Without marketing, your business is incredibly vulnerable. So what I help my clients do is to create consistent and compelling marketing, specifically content, so that they feel confident and they can turn up.
And I'm glad that you raised it, because Alannah will agree with me. When people are looking at their cash flow, marketing is the first thing they shop. And the reality is, if people can't find your door, you don't have any business. And if you don't communicate with your people, you don't have any business. So you've got to really start looking at what other areas that you can actually really be cutting the fat from. Certainly not marketing. you can certainly shop around and see if what you're doing in marketing is the best deal. But generally speaking, when you do shop around, like let's say you're doing SEO, do shop around before you start doing it so you don't get locked into some big numbers. But when you do change over to SEO, generally those agencies keep that information. So you're starting at ground zero again. So it's always really, really good. You don't need to be paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month for SEO. There's lots of really good people out there. We at the Engine here, we pay anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. And the leads that we get from all our businesses is absolutely phenomenal and comparable to what other people pay for $6,000 a month or $5,000 a month. So do not cut your marketing. It's really important that you keep it there. And if your cash flow can't sustain marketing, you shouldn't actually be in business right now. That's my personal opinion. Just talking about the art of proactivity. It's a powerful driver of business success. By actively seeking opportunities, anticipating trends, taking calculated risks, building strategic partnerships, embracing continuous improvement, empowering employees and adapting to change, businesses can stay ahead of the competition and thrive in dynamic environments. And this is a dynamic environment. This is an environment where you can either thrive or die. That's how dynamic it is. So Peter, let's talk about empowering employees and continuous improvement, because this is the work that you do and with a lot of businesses. What are your thoughts around those two things, empowering employees and continuous improvement?
Yeah, I think proactivity, it's not limited to just the business owner. It needs to be something that's encouraged across the organisation, and proactive leaders really look at empowering their employees in advance and help foster that sort of culture of proactivity, because it can't all just fall on the shoulders of the owner to be looking ahead and having a proactive approach to the environment. And if you encourage your employees to take that approach as well, it means that they're able to come up with initiative and new ideas, but also problem solving that sets them up as well to be proactive in managing whatever might be coming down the pipeline. And that's what we do kind of with our clients at the Engine, as we talk about how they get feedback from their people. We're always looking at improvement, always looking at ideas. Not all ideas will get implemented, of course, but always encouraging and nurturing that environment of a proactive approach. What if this? What are we doing in this space? What can we do? How can we do this? And proactively setting themselves up. And that really stems from engaging with your people, talking with them, and being a proactive leader by displaying that to your people and encouraging it in your teams.
I'm glad, Peter, that you talked about feedback, because quite often people will say to me, we don't have time to get feedback. And I say to people, well, why did you hire these people? Surely you hired them for the thought process that they bring to the table. And if you don't actually allow people to have a voice at the table, well, then we may as well just continue around that AI process and just continue to hire robots, because there's going to be no emotion attached to your business. And that's what people bring. And that's what people gravitate to, is that emotional element. And that's what I love about what you do, Kat, is whenever I work with you, you really bring that emotional element to the storytelling, to what you're writing. And Alannah, you also have that emotional element in that you care about people, and you have those difficult conversations with them about, maybe now's not the right time to be in business. Maybe we need to do this and this and this before we actually go out there. So having that feedback is really important, and empowering people to do things at the right time. So going to come to you now, Alannah. Now is not the right time to be complacent around your company's fiscal management. What should business owners be doing now and for the next 12 months, from your opinion?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is maintaining a healthy cash reserve. It's easier said than done sometimes, but don't spend unnecessarily. Really look at the expenses in your business, and really have a good hard think about what those expenses are doing for you. You talked about marketing before. It's really important, and as you say, it's often the first thing that people just go, no, I don't need that. Well, actually you do. So I think it's been proven that those who do continue to market through a recession or a hard time are the ones that come out on top at the other end. So review your cash flow projections all the time. Review them against actuals on a regular basis. And also consider financing to spread out your cash flow a little bit if you can.
Yeah, look, it's actually quite prudent, even if you are running close to the line, to actually do a day-to-day cash flow, not to get bogged down with doing that and go, I have to go to my negative place of a day-to-day cash flow, which is going to tell me my negative position. But it's actually knowing that, okay, I'm going to spend 15 minutes working on my day-to-day cash flow, looking at what money I got in, what money needs to be chased, updating my account bookkeeper person if I need to do that. But it's interesting you talk about what can I trim. I mean, even as simple as I might make my lunch every day rather than buying it. You could save yourself $15 a day of drawings or even salary that you don't need to draw out of the business. And people might say, well, why am I doing this if I don't have any kind of joy in the business? Well, unfortunately, in hard times, if we want to have survival, we need to do things at a lean management level. And that even means looking at our personal affairs of what we're taking out of the business to be able to manage, obviously, the business expenses. So cash is king, marketing is important. Coming back to you, Kat, a subject that you and I talk about often, and I'm guilty as charged sometimes in this regard, but let's talk about your take on building strategic partnerships. It's really hard when you don't know who you want to live with. And what I mean by that is people go into building strategic partnerships, but it's taking on a flatmate and you've made an agreement with someone, then you can't get rid of them. Almost like taking on a shareholder. How do I get rid of that person? So that's another subject and another topic. Or perhaps, and this is where sometimes I actually need your help, Kat, is you don't even know what your proposition fully is. So I might come to you with a really good idea. I might know what I want, and you really drill down into that detail. So all too often you have someone wanting to write for them. Let's say it's like me, I come to you with an amazing idea. How do you get that out of me, Kat? How do you get it so you get that compelling proposition of what I want?
Sure. So it all starts with the audience that you're talking to and that you want to attract to what you're doing. And it's understanding them on what's called a psychographic level. So it's not just that it's, Jane, she's working woman with 2.5 kids in the suburbs. It's more around her pains around managing the family, for example. What does she go through emotionally? She has to juggle 1,000,001 balls with work and kids, and really understanding how she feels about a specific problem. And then when you understand that and you have your offer, then what I really try to do, or a big part of my work, is understanding the positioning of how your offer is positioned to the problem that your audience is facing. And from there, I can craft essentially the story.
And I guess when you can craft the story and people can articulate what it is that they want, when they're building those strategic partnerships, then they actually go with an actual pure articulation of what it is that they have as a complementary position with that other person, right?
Yeah, it's clarity. It's clarity for both parties, right? It's establishing that, and that's really, really important.
I love that word clarity, because that's really what it is in business, is that everything we do is all about taking a step back and getting clarity about the situation that we're looking at or what we want to do from here on in. Alannah, back to you. Talked about complacency before. Now is not the time to be behind the desk or stuck in the office as a business owner. And really, you shouldn't be doing that at all in any situation, recession or non-recession. What advice would you give to business owners to get out of the office?
Well, there's a couple of things. Join a networking group. Join a good networking group. It's an amazing way to market your business, particularly if it's a personal business and it's all about you. People go into business because they're really good at something. And so you're passionate about it. And when you're talking to people, that comes across. And the only way to do that is to talk to them directly, unless you've got, an amazing person like Kat in the background doing all the other stuff for you. So get into networking. People get to know you, they trust you, they buy from you, they refer you to their friends, their family, their colleagues, their own customers, and all of a sudden you've got this incredible network of people. But the second thing is visit your clients. It keeps you foremost in their mind. You add customer focus, retention and loyalty. And it means that they're more likely to continue to buy for you. And also, you're more likely to get paid first when things go a bit pear-shaped.
Yeah, and look, when we go to networking, you kind of feel like, you know, you're the only fish in a bowl, but the reality is everyone started there. And my experience of networking has been extremely warm. You know, someone will gravitate towards you. There's a buddy type system, but your next biggest client might be sitting just in that room amongst their client pool or their client's client pool. So go to networking with an open mind, understand who you are, back yourself, and don't expect to walk out of there with $100,000 deal. Although I will say, I know of people who have actually gone to a room and actually walked out with $100,000 deal. So it just depends on timing as well. I want to talk around, so all of that's really good stuff, Alannah. I want to talk about award winner Simon Harris. His advice to fellow contractors was take calculated risk to reap the reward. Simon Harris bought an average size store from a national chain and turned it into a profitable business in just over a year. A great example of how to start up a pharmacy and become successful. His formula was quite simple. Recognise the available opportunities and take some calculated risk and reap the reward. I said it before, calculated risk, reap the reward. Peter, you and I bought a wedding event venue in COVID. Some said we were brave, others said we were dumb. They weren't obviously welcome, but anyway, and most said awesome. You and I both have quite different risk profiles, and yet we both agreed it was a sound decision and still is. What advice would you have to others about taking calculated risk in business?
Yeah, look, I think the key piece of advice I'd give is be brave and listen to your trusted advisors and specialists and people with experience. So taking a calculated risk means doing some assessment, doing some fact finding, doing some research, sharing the ideas with other people, and that way you'll feel like you're not on your own, and you'll get some good guidance and advice. There's still always a risk doing something new or jumping into uncharted territory, but there are ways to manage and calculate that risk. I think if businesses are willing to step outside their comfort zone and try new things, be a bit more novel and be a bit transformative, then they'll reap the rewards for sure. And I think, you know, in business, we should always be pushing the boundaries anyway, because otherwise we do get complacent, as we've heard mentioned previously this morning. And, you know, always proactive people look ahead at what they understand, what is currently known and understood, but people also look ahead if they're proactive and explore uncharted territories. That's what proactivity is all about.
Yeah, and it really comes back to a couple of simple things for me. And a calculated risk, surround yourself with those experts again. Absolutely grateful to have had Walker Wayland on board with obviously helping us through that process, actually going into a decision with having obviously a cash flow, a forecast cash flow, and obviously doing a three-way cash flow model, which was, you know, if you haven't heard about what a three-way cash flow model is, then you need to be speaking to Walker Wayland, because that'll give you absolute certainty around the balance sheet aspect and not just profitability and losses. So, Alannah, what are your thoughts around taking calculated risk nowadays?
Wow.
Obviously, Walker Wayland here.
Oh yeah, sure. My personal risk profile is pretty low, but I think the key here is calculated, and exactly what Peter said. You know, do your homework on the market that you're looking to expand into. Do your homework on the opportunities and the challenges. Involve these trusted experts, because you know there are so many people that have knowledge that's not in your head. Do your homework on the finances. For goodness sake, build that budget and that three-way cash flow. It's really important.
Yeah, look, it's fair to say that, Peter, and my experience in the wedding market was we got married, but that wasn't the reason why we bought the venue. Obviously, Peter comes from a very entrenched customer journey background, and I've got a very strong marketing background and obviously finance. So obviously, when we went into this whole calculated risk, I mean, our risk profiles are very, very different. We went at it as to what is the skill set that we are going to bring to this business, and how will it enhance the business from where it is now to where we want to go. So those were a lot of things that we factored into. So Alannah, some really great stuff there, and you know that I rate the work that you guys do at Wayland, because you're not just humble and have humility, but you know you do offer people that real strategic, forward thinking process that's required and obviously purchases, which is really important when you've got bankers and financiers looking at a business. They want to know who's behind you, helping you. So thank you, Wayland, for helping us with that. And Kat, still talking about taking calculated risks. How easy is it, Kat, to pivot if you suddenly realise who you are and need to communicate to get this right? Sounds weird, eh? Oh, Kat, you're on mute.
Sorry.
So it sounds weird to go, you suddenly realise who you are, but that happens.
It does happen, and it can be a really long journey. But I think it really is very different for every business is different, and every choice to pivot is incredibly unique to that business. Some businesses or people can afford to pivot really quickly, but others have to maintain their existing baseline and then pivot slowly. For me personally, it's been quite a quick pivot, but I've kept my agency copywriting business going in the background. So my clients' messaging to my existing clients has been, I'm still here and business as usual. But for my new business, that is what I'm actively promoting. So I'm balancing the two. So really it is understanding, you know, obviously seeing if there is an opportunity for the pivot and then figuring out the best way to maximize that.
And for those of you that are watching, I've been working now with Kat for a good part of probably about nearly 3 years. And what I will say is, look, there's no doubt with innovation, chat AI has been a big disruptor in the market. But just remember that chat AI is based around the information it's given, and then it calculates that information based on the question you're asking. So it doesn't have the emotional element that you're needing to address. So sure, you can go and do a chat AI, but just be very aware that many others are also using the same product, and you'll end up with the same outcome. And people will still gravitate to the businesses that are showing that emotional human element. So Kat Corbett has my 5 ticks, and just reminded me that I probably have never given you a testimonial. Very naughty of me. I need to sort that out. It'll be done by the end of the day today. Look, we're in a world of constant change. I see when we practice leadership proactively that counterbalances the natural reactivity of business. I always say to people, we lead from the front, looking ahead, communicating and planning, and then we move to the side and coach others to do what we've shown them, and then we go to the back when they take their trainer wheels off. However, many people get caught up in being reactive in terms of not allowing those people to do what we've actually coached them and letting them go forward. Peter, why do you think it is that people just naturally get reactive about situations?
Oh, look, it is, you said before, it's natural. Even the best at proactive management can slip up, and you know, they encounter a problem they didn't see coming, and they start to kick into a reactive mode. And the more problems that pop up, the more reactive we tend to slip back into. It's just natural. And as a result, the more likely it is for us to make mistakes. And there's a lot of reasons that you can go from the proactive to reactive. You know, you might have to abandon a company's strategy because of a particular crisis. So you're going along nicely, you've got a clear plan, the strategy's kicking in, and something kicks in that absolutely derails it. And that forces owners and managers into decisions they have to make on the spot. And sometimes they're wrong because of the urgency and speed, and that can create some challenges. Another one is you could be moving or growing too fast, and actually means that, and I know that's not, it sounds like a good problem to have, but it can sometimes mean owners and leaders of businesses struggle to keep up, and only leaves enough time for them to react to the new things that are popping up every day, and they start losing control over the future. And also, you know, if as a business owner you take over a business that was previously not doing so well or wasn't managed that great, then they have to spend a lot of time fixing and rebuilding the business, and that often comes with things that pop up all the time, creating a reactivity. So there's lots of reasons why it's hard to stay proactive all the time, and there's reactive needs sometimes. But it's how quickly you can get back on track to being proactive that really makes a difference.
Yeah, I quite often say to people, why am I always positive? And, you know, I say to them, I'm actually human. You just get to see me positive when I'm coming to see you, because that's the role I need to play. But the reality is that I'm just human like you, and sometimes it's easy for me to fall down into that reactive, negative space. It's a natural human thing. But as a leader, we've got to be proactive. You know, you've got to have difficult conversations, but when you have those difficult conversations, do them in a proactive way. Show people that you're actually having that conversation to help them, to show them, you know, obviously what they're doing well, where they're going wrong, and how they can be a better version of themselves. So, Kat, I'm going to come back to you about your business, Peaceful Pipeline. Gosh, I just so love that name. Like, I've really taken the time in just the last few days to really, like, for those of you who don't know, I've had an unhelpful 1 week break from my business, and that's story for another day. But it made me really take a look at my providers and what they were up to, and just really honing in on that. So, Kat, great name, by the way. Communication, Kat, is at our fingertips, and it's increased the noise in our lives, like from the phone to the phone to the phone to the phone. Just the phone, because everything's on the phone. It's natural for us to want to continue to fill this space, and it's really hard to turn off. How do you turn off, Kat, to channel your communication?
The first thing I do is I've muted all notifications on my phone, and so I'm empowered to, you know, connect with people on my time and my terms. But when it comes to actually marketing myself and the advice I give to my clients, is it's actually about doing less and doing the right things. So it's not about being on 20 platforms, because you'll burn out. I will burn out specifically. Like I can't actually do that. So I am really protective of where I am and how I show up. And so LinkedIn is my main social platform. I also network in some Facebook groups, and I do in-person networking, and that's it. So I focus really, really tightly on those three things, and that works for me. The minute I start to think about being on Threads or being on Twitter or being on Instagram, I can't do that. And run a business. So it's about really distilling the noise, or quieting the noise as much as possible, and leveraging those platforms to the best of their abilities, and maximizing the power in those, because each platform is so nuanced, and you have to invest a lot in not only creating content, but building an engaged community, because that is what is the firepower underneath that content.
I love it. I love it. And, you know, I was actually flipping through my phone going page of apps, and I just need to go delete, because I don't need all of them. I want to go back to being a child, because wasn't it great in the 1960s, 70s, for those of you that are older, for 60s and 70s? Kat, you might not be in that age group. You might be in the 80s, I gather.
The 80s were great. Yeah.
The 80s were great too. But, you know, as children, we didn't have all this noise, and yet we learned the art to be proactive. We were constantly pushing the envelope of curiosity, and our mindset to explore and be creative. Alannah, what do you do at Wayland to encourage a business owner to be proactive, to explore and be creative? And do you revert back to the 1970s?
Really? Look, it is something that we lose as an adult, right? You know, that curiosity, because we get so busy. You know, we go into business because we're good at what we do, and we get caught up in that daily grind. And often we don't sit back and look for the opportunities. We don't sit back and look at what can be done better, you know, how we can leverage ideas from our staff, as we've already talked about, and networking. So at Wayland, when we're talking to people, and some people we do only talk to once a year, because they might have a small business, they might not need the assistance, but we'll just talk to them about, you know, expanding their horizons. What do they want to do next? What help do they need with that? Because often they don't even know, you know, they come up with an idea and they don't know where to go from there. But if they talk to someone like us, we can reach out to our engine network and say, well, hey, look, we've got Kat here, she can help you with that. So, you know, it's just looking for those opportunities to have discussions that don't happen every single day.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's just coming back to those experts, people that understand the shoes that you're walking in, and just talking about where you're at, and just coming up with a whole bunch of different opportunities. Let me humour you all. Have you, I was actually going to do this about Jason Momoa, but I thought that might upset Peter a little bit. So anyway, back to the whole humouring is, have you ever asked yourself a question of, let's say, who that muscled actor was in the Fast and the Furious, and you can't think about who it is, and it comes to you in the middle of another thought day, another thought process? Have you guys ever had that happen to you? And Alannah, I'm sure, yeah, maybe, yeah. Peter, I don't know, Britney Spears. Oh no, sorry, wrong person.
Yeah.
And you think about, why did it come to me now? The brain is constantly being proactive. Has this happened to you in business, Kat? And what do you do?
Oh, 100%. I try and build a bit of resilience around it and buy myself some time. If I'm on the spot and someone asks me a question and I genuinely have forgotten the answer, I'll say, I'll get back to you. Or what I'll do is I'll say, if I've got a piece of work that needs to be done that requires a bit more deep thinking, I'll build that time into the process so that I have that time in the shower or walking to create what I need to.
And Peter, what about you? I was actually thinking of the other lady from the 1960s, you know, the bronze, no, sorry, anyway. What about you, Peter?
Oh yeah, I mean, that happens regularly. I mean, I think we're always generally trying to think ahead around things like what if this and what else and what about, and these are things we're constantly thinking, and they're kind of basically proactive thoughts all the time that are going on, and they pop up randomly sometimes, and you know, like a lot of the best ideas for business will come up, you know, in the middle of the night or in unusual situations out of nothing, and that's an agility that you don't want to suppress, because you want that creativity and you want that spontaneous thinking to happen. And it's about, as Kat said, reining it in, focusing, kind of pausing and making it work so that you can spend more time on thinking it through to make it work for you. But yeah, and even things like business planning or forecasting are tools we use that help us focus on that what, and they become part of that proactivity and that thinking that we need in business.
Yeah, I used to have a notebook beside the bed when I came up with an epiphany of an idea at 4 a.m. in the morning, but I suddenly realised when I wrote it down, I'd stay awake for the rest of the time. So the notebook and the pen got removed very quickly. Alannah, what about you? What do you do in that whole situation of you know, that question of the thought comes to you and another thought process? So how do you manage that in business?
Yeah, look, you mentioned Vin Diesel a couple of minutes ago. I really can't think of anything else now. But of course, that sort of aha moment happens to people all the time. And sometimes, yes, you're right, it does happen a couple of days later. And so maybe the moment's passed to act on it. But do exactly what you said, record it somewhere, like have a journal of your ideas that you can record and come back to later on. And it might be that you end up discussing it with colleagues or family, and that just puts a little bit more clarity around it and produces more ideas, which is really cool. So I love the notebook idea, but yeah, maybe not right beside your bed.
Yeah, look, in a moment of crisis, I'll never forget my best friend saying to me, basically going back 10 years ago now, Catherine, I want you to sit there and I want you to spend the next 2 days writing everything down on this subject matter. You're not to leave, but you're to write everything down. And I have to say, in that moment, I thought, I don't want to relive all this stuff again. But by doing it, it actually helped me for the next part of the next part of the next part of the journey that I was going through at that time. So if you are in the middle of let's just say an employment relations issue or a health and safety issue, take the time now to write down what you know now and gather what you know now. Don't come back to it. There's nothing more important than to actually just record it in the moment. So, hey, all good stuff, guys. Getting clear on where you're coming from and owning that is a powerful practice of proactive self-leadership. Alannah, circling back to finance, why do business owners not like being proactive about contacting the IRD, and what should they do? And more importantly, what will happen if they don't?
Look, people see the IRD as policemen and they're a bit scared of them. They kind of are. I mean, they're there to uphold the law, the tax law, and contacting them directly can be a little bit scary. People are worried about the potential penalties and interest they might charge on something that they've done wrong. But business owners with accountants or tax agents should be able to be really confident that those accountants can be in touch with the IRD on their behalf and sort out anything that needs sorting out. But there are times you might need to contact them yourself, and you really shouldn't be scared of it. They are actually really, really helpful, but communication is the key. So they can't help you if they don't understand what your problem is because you haven't communicated it to them. And usually when you do, things are fine. When you don't, that's when it all goes pear-shaped.
Yeah, look, that's the key to it, really. I mean, if they don't understand where you're at, they're just going to think you're ignoring them, and that's not going to help you. And honesty is the key. You know, we're all human beings. They've heard it all before. They've seen it all before. But if you're not honest about it and they start uncovering things, and that becomes quite problematic. So front foot it. Always front foot a situation. I'm actually going to go into talking about a case study. I know we're a little bit over time here, so hopefully you're okay for time. Proactivity is a vital quality for business owners, but when they fail to exhibit it, there can be significant consequences. In this case study, we're going to explore the experience of a small retail business, which is fictionist, by the way, where the owner lacked proactivity. It resulted in missed opportunities, operational inefficiencies, and a decline in competitiveness. Let's call this company GMK Clothing Store. It's a small family-owned retail business that's been operating for over 2 decades. The store initially enjoyed success under the founder's leadership, but as time passed, the owner became complacent and failed to be proactive in their approach to running the business. If you're watching this and you are feeling that you could be complacent and you're not being proactive, now's the time to reach out to us and come and have a chat. What could be the obvious things that they became complacent in from your perspective, Alannah, and what could they do to turn it around?
Yeah, look, quite often when people go into business, they put systems in place and they set and forget. They forget to review them. And over time, things change, systems change. You get better systems out there that are way more efficient, particularly for individual businesses. So go back, have a look at all your systems, streamline your operations, your processes, make sure you've got good inventory management so you don't end up with, a heap of dead stock or stock that you can't sell. Make sure your staff is optimized. You don't want to have a whole lot of staff sitting there twiddling their thumbs. And when you're a complacent business owner, that sort of thing can escape your notice. Reduce your costs and focus on your customers. Give them satisfaction.
Absolutely. Go and visit them. Don't pick up the phone or email them. Go and visit them. That's all really good stuff, Alannah. Operationally, you do need to be looking closely at everything. So, Kat, the business failed with stagnant marketing and branding due to not being proactive. How could they turn it around using you?
So I'm not an e-commerce expert, but I buy a lot of e-com stuff. So, and the marketing principles are pretty similar. So the first thing that they would need is, being 20 years old, they potentially haven't leveraged online as effectively as they could. So the first thing is optimizing website for purchases and optimizing website for collecting customer data for emails. So I would be prioritizing getting existing customers' email addresses and marketing to them via email, and collecting new email addresses for new customers. And then the money that you make off that, you invest into ads onto the platform that is right for the ideal target audience. Again, don't need to be on all of them, just be really selective. And have great content that demonstrates the product and the benefits and testimonials of usage.
Ultimately, engage with your customers, right? And your potential customers. That communicate, same story as what Alannah's saying, talk to people.
Yeah.
Peter, Alannah raised a really valid subject. She talked about employees being idle. So there's no doubt that complacency can lead to poor employee morale and engagement. What would you suggest for that business?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that engaged employees, add value and contribute to, to a positive successes of the business. So I think prioritizing proactively the employee engagement and the empowerment that they have to influence the business is a really key trait of a proactive business owner. Involving them in the decision making, encouraging them to be innovative, give them opportunities for growth and development, and really foster a culture that's proactive, that's all about change and continuous improvement, not the status quo and complacency. It doesn't mean you change everything every day, but it's about reviewing and looking in advance to say, okay, is this the best way for the future? Can we change this? And having some proactive timelines in place and sort of thresholds at which you say, right, we're going to review that, and we're going to look at whether it's still fit for purpose, and let's bring the team together to look at improving and changing.
Yeah, and talk to people in real time, you know, just say job well done. Like, don't wait for 2 months for a review or a year for a review, and suddenly you're rewarding them or thanking them for something that was done 12 months ago. So look, the case study of GMK clothing store highlights many issues and solutions just by being proactive. By embracing proactive leadership, conducting market research, streamlining operations, investing in marketing and branding, and fostering a proactive culture, GMK clothing store can regain competitiveness, improve its market position, and position itself for sustainable growth. By reaching out and putting experts around them, they could have actually survived. Can I get a closing statement from each of you that you've learned today, or a final pearl of wisdom for our viewers from you regarding your business and what you can do for them? Start with you, Alannah.
Why not? Really just summing up, plan ahead as much as you can. You can't plan ahead for something like, you know, worldwide illnesses or pandemics, but you can plan ahead for recessions. So maintain your cash reserve, keep your budgets, cash flows up to date, refine your systems, and make sure you're really focused on customer satisfaction and retention.
And Peter?
Yeah, I think being proactive means actually taking control of your business and just not leaving things to happen. A lot of business owners talk about, oh, I can't do anything about that, or this is happening and this is happening. And that's not always true. There are always some things that you can do to take back that control instead of just waiting for things to happen. Actually influence the future for your business.
Pat, give you the final word.
So for me, proactivity is very closely linked to consistency. So, and I love the analogy of be a farmer in your marketing. Just be consistent and, you know, sow the seeds and you will reap the rewards consistently.
I'm glad that you used the word farmer, because people still think they need to hunt, and you do need to hunt, but right now farming is so important. Look after your existing database, your existing client pool. They'll look after you, they'll refer you, they'll talk about you, they'll stay with you. So farming is such a key. God, I love that word, farming. Absolutely love it. So thanks, Kat. Hey, thank you everybody for giving your time and knowledge today. At the Engine, we've been doing business for a long time. And with our provider network, such as Wayland and Peaceful Pipeline, Kat and Alannah, we have all our bases of business covered. I'm signing off for a few weeks for a well-deserved overdue break and a birthday, believe it or not. I couldn't believe how old I was turning in a couple of weeks, but it does happen. Those birthdays roll around. And I'll see you on our next episode talking about governance. I'm passionate about compliance and fiduciary duties as a director. So look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks. And for you guys, thank you again, and have a great couple of weeks yourselves. Thank you.